Seeing that the steel pipe hitting Yi Feng had no effect at all, Triangle Eye was also stunned for a moment. Yi Feng took advantage of his daze to rush in front of him, held Triangle Eye's head with both hands, raised his head and hit him with a headbutt. Go down. With a sound of bang, Triangle Eyes felt as if his head had hit an oncoming truck. The world was spinning for a while, and nothing could be seen in his eyes except Venus flying everywhere. Are you a piece of trash like others and want to block roads and rob you? Yi Feng kicked Triangle Eye down, turned around and grabbed the steel pipe swung by the muscular man next to him. Seeing this, the muscular man tried to pull the steel pipe back with his arms, but no matter how hard he slapped Yi Feng's arm, it wouldn't budge. I should be hard too. Yi Feng muttered in a low voice, and suddenly released the steel pipe. The muscular man was dodged, and his upper body leaned back. Yi Feng stepped forward and poked the muscular man in the chest and abdomen with his elbow. Between. The muscular man fell to the ground after being poked by the elbow and gasped. He covered the injury with both hands and rolled on the ground with his mouth open but couldn't scream. 2 of the 5 people were knocked down in the blink of an eye. The remaining red-haired man, green-haired man and nose-ringed man looked at each other, then screamed strangely and rushed forward while holding up the steel pipe. Yi Feng rushed to Triangle Eye and picked him up from the ground. He raised his head and 3 steel pipes hit Triangle Eye's body with a bang 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 sound, causing Triangle Eye to scream in pain. Immediately afterwards, Yi Feng threw the triangular eye towards the other 3 gangsters with a wave of his hand, knocking the 3 gangsters back several steps. When the triangular eye fell to the ground, a stone happened to hit his waist, and he covered his head in pain. He rubbed his lower back and groaned. Hee, it looks like you are a lot stronger. In the past at school, Yi Feng also had a few fights with other boys because of Byakin, but they were all fist fights. After the fight, both parties looked black and blue. It was not as enjoyable as today. What did the advertisement say? Come on, eat whatever you want, and shoot 5 of them in one breath, effortlessly. Picking up the steel pipe that the muscular man dropped on the ground, Yi Feng rushed towards the remaining 3 people. The 3 gangsters were also restrained by Yi Feng. When they were thinking about whether to continue fighting, Yi Feng had already rushed over and took a look at the red-haired man. The front bone is a steel pipe. The red-haired man fell to the ground with a cry of, "Oh my God," holding his calves in his hands and howling. Seeing Yi Feng's fierceness, the green-haired man threw down the steel pipe, took out a spring knife from his pocket, and stabbed Yi Feng in the stomach. Yi Feng's steel pipe turned and hit the green-haired man's wrist. The green-haired man felt that his wrist bones were cracked. The switchblade flew out of his hand. Before he could make any move, Yi Feng walked around to his side and faced him. He bent his leg and kicked it, and the green-haired man immediately knelt on the ground with one leg. "Auntie, I will fight with you." The man with the nose ring had just put on a desperate posture when Yi Feng had already flashed in front of him like a gust of wind, slapped him in the face. Pa, pa, pa. Yi Feng slapped the man with the nose ring 7 or 8 times with his backhand, and even one of his yellow teeth was pulled out by Yi Feng. The others that were not pulled out were shaking in the gums. The man with the nose ring was shaking. "I'm afraid I'll have to use my hands if I want to eat melon seeds in the future. I hate your stinky mouth." Yi Feng pulled the man with the nose ring by his hair, put his face in front of him and said viciously, then kicked the man with the nose ring in the stomach, kicking him so hard that he flew backwards for more than a meter and fell to the ground, holding his stomach, bent like a shrimp. Seeing the gangster lying on the ground, Yi Feng felt very happy. None of these bastards were good, so they should be taught a lesson. If he hadn't unexpectedly received the help of that warm current, he would have really fallen into their trap today. Now that they have a steel pipe in their hand, it's obvious that they often do such unethical things. Brothers, you can be considered as eliminating harm for the people today. You guys, tell me what happened to us today. Yi Feng was leaning on a motorcycle in his spare time, holding a steel pipe in his hand and looking at it. looking at the 5 gangsters lying on the ground. "Boy, don't be crazy." The muscular man finally took a breath. Just as he was about to say harsh words, the steel pipe in Yi Feng's hand flew towards him, and it hit his forehead with a bang before he got up. The muscular man sat down on the ground again, with a circular blood mark on his forehead, like a plaster flag. "Which one of us is crazy?" Yi Feng picked up a steel pipe from the ground with his toes, held it with both hands and twisted it hard. He immediately twisted the steel pipe into a twist shape. "I remember who just said that he was going to kneel down and call Daddy. Hurry up, or one of you will break a leg." The 5 gangsters were all frightened by Yi Feng's move. The muscular man asked himself that he could bend the steel pipe, but the ability to twist it into twists would probably require a good pregnancy in his next life. "You can't hear what I said, can you?" Yi Feng roared angrily, and with a flick of his hand, the twist-shaped steel pipe flew out and was inserted into the ground next to the triangle eye, more than an inch deep. The triangular eyes were so frightened that they nearly fainted. They were all here to fool around. How could they not understand that a good man should not suffer the consequences before his eyes? At that moment, he knelt on the ground holding his lower back and reluctantly shouted, "Dad! Where are you for?" Yi Feng said, turning around and kicking the motorcycle. The motorcycle flew 6 or 7 meters away. "Father! Father! Dad!" Following 3 shouts, Yi Feng's eyes fell on the face of the man with the nose ring. This boy had been slapped several times and his whole mouth was numb. He couldn't even open his mouth to shout. Finally, he got desperate and simply shouted. Pronounced simpler, "Grandpa. You bunch of turtles, get out of here." "Yes, yes, yes, let's get out now." Seeing Yi Feng's words, Triangle Eyes hurriedly got up from the ground, nodded and said that he would get out immediately, and he and the gangsters helped each other get on their respective motorcycles. The car ran towards the county seat as if running for its life. From a distance, Yi Feng seemed to hear Triangle Eyes shouting something like, "You wait for me," but he was obviously lacking in confidence, and he looked like a standard bad guy saying harsh words before getting out. Yi Feng stretched his muscles and found that not only did he not feel tired after the fight, but he was very energetic. The depression that had accumulated in his chest because of the money matter was also relieved in this fight, and his whole body and mind felt relaxed. He hummed a little tune and walked back towards the village. When we returned to the village, it was already dusk, and every household was braving the smoke from cooking and going into their yards. Uncle Jen was sitting on the steps at the door smoking his dry pipe, while Auntie was busy making preparations in the house. Having dinner. "Fengzi, are you back? Have you bought all the medicine?" Uncle Jen narrowed his eyes and glanced at Yi Feng's face. "You young people, you should go out more often when you have nothing to do, don't stay at home all the time. It's so stuffy inside that my hair is growing. Now that you've gone out for a walk, you've become more energetic. Hey, don't I want to learn some skills early so that I can make money to buy a gold chain for my aunt? How can I do it without working hard? Uncle Jen, when you first studied medicine, you definitely didn't go to the city to wander around all day long. You say yes." Yi Feng laughed, handed the plastic bag containing the medicine to Uncle Lao Jen, and slipped into the main room. "Auntie, come here." Auntie saw Yi Feng coming back. He was holding an oil pot and was about to pour oil into the pot for cooking. Yi Feng grabbed the oil pot and put it on the stove, dragging Auntie into the back room. "Oh, you little brat, why are you dragging me along?" Aunt Yi was confused by Yi Feng. "Hey, Auntie, what do you think this is?" Yi Feng took out a small red cloth bag from his trouser pocket, opened it and handed it to Auntie. Inside was Auntie's silver bracelet. Underneath the bracelet are 5 red pictures of Mao Zedong. "Fengzi, what's going on?" Auntie was not happy, but frowned. "Where did you get this money?" "Let me tell you, Fengzi, our family is poor, but we don't need you. Food and committing crimes are things that children from good families cannot do. Auntie's reaction made the smile on Yi Feng's face stiffen. He was stunned for a moment before he said helplessly, "Auntie, you have watched me grow up. Don't you know who I am? How could I do bad things? Son, I earned this money, and you don't have to put your precious bracelet in the pawn shop, isn't it great?" "No." Yi Feng thought it would be over with just a haha, but unexpectedly Auntie's tone became more serious. "Fengzi, you must explain clearly to Auntie where this money came from. You are a stupid kid. You can earn so much money just by traveling to the county town. Do you think your aunt is a fool from the west end of the village?" Facing his aunt's severe interrogation, Yi Feng couldn't help but smile miserably. He had never lied since he was a child. This casual statement was really hard to believe. "Auntie, don't worry. I'm not a criminal. When I was in the city, I saw a man buying 5 emperor's coins at a high price, so I sold my grandfather's string. This is the money I got from the sale. It's not dirty money." You sold your grandfather's 5 emperor's money?" Auntie's face was full of surprise, and then she poked Yi Feng's forehead with her finger. "You little loser. What do you do with the relics that Uncle Motzi left for you? Just sell it. Those are the thoughts he left for you, you little bastard, you." Auntie choked up while cursing. She looked at the bracelet on the red cloth and her eyes turned red. Auntie was not stupid. Yi Feng sold Yi Motzi's relics obviously to keep her family's bracelet. To help this, how could she not understand that her family was going through a difficult time? "Auntie, don't be like this. Objects are dead, but people are alive." Yi Feng squatted down and hugged Auntie's waist, pressing his face against her old coat. "Aunt. After so many years, you are like my biological mother. Fengzi can't afford to buy you a gold chain, but I still want to do something for you. Prodigal thing." Auntie's rough hands stroked Yi Feng's head and cursed in a low voice, but her face was full of kindness and satisfaction. "Uncle Lao Zhen, it's not good. Uncle Lao Zhen, something big has happened." Auntie had just finished cooking dinner, but before Yi Feng could hold his chopsticks properly, Kuei from the old Zhao family in the east of the village ran out of the yard. "Come in. Guawazi, what are you yelling at? Your Uncle Zhen is fine and planning to eat. You said that your Uncle Zhen is not good. Even if he is not good, it's because you, Guawazi, are messing with the meal that he can't eat well. Kuei is Yi Feng's childhood friend, and he often comes to Uncle Zhen's house. This kid is good at everything. He just likes to make noises when nothing happens, and he can make a fuss about big things for a long time. Uncle Lao Zhen would occasionally be willing to quarrel with a child when his temperament improved. No, Uncle Lao Zhen, vomiting blood, vomiting blood." Kuei had obviously run all the way over. At this time, he was a little out of breath. When Uncle Lao Zhen choked, he couldn't explain clearly. He squatted on the ground and gasped for air. "Shit, your dad just vomited blood." Uncle Zhen gave Kuei an annoyed look. "Kuei, what's going on? You need to take a breath before talking." Yi Feng saw that Kuei was not joking, so he quickly walked over and squatted next to Kuei, patting his back and helping him calm down. "Yes, it's my dad. My dad vomited blood." Kuei finally uttered a complete sentence. "What are you talking about? Your father really vomited blood? Fengzi, bring my uncle's medicine box. I have to go and take a look quickly. Zhao Laowen's health has always been good, why did he suddenly vomit blood?" Uncle Lao Zhen's his brows furrowed. Kuei didn't have a serious job, he just worked some crops. However, Zhao Laowen had some skills as a mason and was the main source of income for the Zhao family. If Laower fell, the life of the family would be in jeopardy. Not having a good time. Oh. Yi Feng agreed, and stood up to go to the inner room to get the medicine box. Who knew that as soon as he stood up from the ground, he felt that the world was spinning, his body tilted, and he hit the wall next to him. His eyes were full of gold stars. Random risk. Fengzi, what's wrong with you? Auntie was startled by Yifeng, and she quickly helped Yifeng up from the ground with her kuei. Yifeng's eyes were a little dazed, and he was obviously still dizzy, and there was a big swelling on his forehead. It's okay, Auntie, I'm okay. Yifeng waved his hand to show that he was okay, and reached out to touch his head. The pain made him gasp, and immediately a big question mark appeared in his heart. A country boy with a strong skin, Yifeng has never suffered from anemia or low blood pressure. This is the first time that he was knocked down as soon as he squatted down. Moreover, how could he get bumps when his head hits the wall? When I was fighting with those gangsters in the afternoon, even if the steel pipe hit me, it wouldn't be a big deal. How come I got bumped when I hit the wall? At home, you help Fengzi go back to the house to rest. I'll go with Erkue to see Lao Weier first. This illness can't be delayed. Uncle Lao Zhen gave the order, and he went into the house and carried the medicine box to follow Erkue. Kue leaves. I'm fine, uncle. I'll follow and take a look. When Yifeng raised his hand to rub the big bump on his head, he felt the heat coming out of his dantian again and swirling in his body, but this time the heat flow was obviously many times weaker than before, like hair. Yifeng was a smart boy. After recalling the contents of the book, he immediately understood what was going on. This heat flow was not something from Yifeng himself, but flowed into his body from the outside world. Yifeng didn't pay attention to it before, and he didn't use the Qingtian heart method in Qingtian suicide note to refine and absorb it. For heat flow, Yifeng's body is just a container. Even if it is not used, this energy will gradually dissipate and disappear as time goes by. What's more, this energy was stimulated in the afternoon, making Yifeng fool for a while. Superboy, by this time, was almost exhausted. Moreover, the kind of explosion that relies on external force is obviously harmful to the body, otherwise it would not be dizzy. But Erkue was Yifeng's disciple after all, so he had to follow him to see what happened. He could only wait until he came back later and then use the Qingtian heart technique to refine this last trace of warmth. The three of them hurried all the way to Erkue's house. Erkue's sister Xinlan was sitting by the bed and watching Zhao Laowen shed tears on the bed. Zhao Laowen was lying on the bed coughing non-stop. Uncle Lao Zhen, Brother Fengzi, you are here. Seeing Yifeng and his party coming in, Xinlan immediately stood up, wiped her tears, and gave up her seat next to the bed to Uncle Lao Zhen. Xinlan is 17 years old this year. She is quite well-born and is still in high school in the town. She is a very lovable girl. Zhao Laowen's daughter-in-law died early. Xinlan has been helping to take care of the family like a little adult since she was a child. Everyone who meets her praises her for her sensibleness. I said, Lao Weier, what's wrong with you? Uncle Lao Zhen came to the bed and looked at Zhao Laowen. He saw that Zhao Laowen's face was as white as paper, and there were bloodshot eyes hanging from the corners of his mouth. He looked at Lao General Shuguang, opened his mouth and was speechless. Erkue, get your dad some hot water. Xinlan, what happened to your father? Yifeng has a big head. Erkue always likes to yell and can't say anything clearly. Zhao Laowen can't say it. Fortunately, there is Xinlan, otherwise he would have to hold him back. Die. Brother Fengzi, my father made third aunt angry. Speaking of this, Xinlan also had a trace of anger on his face. What? Third aunt? Third aunt is a famous matchmaker in the village. She often helps people find matchmakers and pull their hair. Zhao Laowen has such a temper that he can't get anything out of him. How can third aunt be so angry with him? Well, third aunt came to our house just now to propose marriage to Wang Baiwan's family. My father didn't agree. As a result, third aunt said that if I don't marry and go to the Wang family, let us immediately pay back the 50,000 yuan we owe their family. My father was so anxious and angry that he vomited blood just as he drove Sangu out. Xinlan gritted his teeth. Wang Baiwan's family came to propose marriage. Wang Xiaosaner. Isn't he only 12 years old? His hair has not even grown. It's such a shame to propose a marriage. Yifeng spat on the ground next to him, as if he was mentioning Wang Baiwan. The name made him feel dirty. Wang Wanwan, whose real name is Wang Yukai, is the richest man in Longfeng village. His family runs several large breeding farms. Wang Youcai's ancestors were also farmers who worked hard in the countryside. When it came to his generation, they were not willing to toil in the village for a lifetime, so they took a burden and went out to make a living in the big cities. It happened to be China's reform and opening up at that time. He caught up with the good times and made his first pot of gold in a big city. The fallen leaves were about to return to their roots. Wang Yukai had some money and wanted to come back to do some hard work, so he set up a large pig farm in the village. At that time, people's living standards had just improved, and pork was also in short supply. From then on, Wang Yukai gradually became prosperous. In the 1990s, he already had millions in assets, so he was called Wang Wanwan by the villagers. Up to now, Wang Wanwan's assets are said to have exceeded tens of millions. In addition to expanding the pig farm several times, he has also opened a chicken farm and a rabbit farm. The business is booming throughout Sangfeng County. They are all considered number one. But I don't know if it's because of money. When Wang Baiwan first came back to the village, he was fine and was kind and friendly to everyone he met. But as the money got more and more, his heart became worse and worse, sometimes even they all don't recognize their relatives. Relying on the power he developed with money, he ran rampant in the village. Some villagers saw that he had made a fortune raising these things and wanted to follow him. Instead of helping the villagers, Wang Wanwan obstructed him in every possible way, not allowing familiar suppliers to use breeding pigs, breeding rabbits, etc. He sells them to the villagers. When someone comes to the village to collect these livestock, once someone wants to sell them, he will try his best to lower the price so that they can't sell them. In addition, he used various means to enclose many good lands in the village to expand his own breeding farm. As a result, Wang Wanwan's business grew bigger and bigger, but instead of benefiting the villagers, they were bullied by him. Behind his back, everyone called him Wang Haixin. Wang Wanwan has 3 sons, the youngest one is named Wang Changsho. Wang Changsho is a very ugly boy. He is born with a short nose, protruding teeth, and a ferocious face. He looks a bit like a tiger. However, contrary to his appearance, this boy has not been very talkative since he was a child. He is surprisingly timid and cannot be kicked with 3 legs. The kind that comes out of nowhere. Originally, this was nothing. Even if he was a coward, no one in the village would mess with him. But 4 years ago, when he was 8 years old, he suddenly developed a high fever. After the fever subsided, he began to suffer from hysteria from time to time. Once he gets sick, the usually coward suddenly turns into a stupid bully, yelling at the top of his voice, hitting everyone and smashing things regardless of time or occasion. Wang Wanwan took his son to the big hospital in the city several times, but the doctors in the city did nothing to cure Wang Changsho's hysteria. They just prescribed some sedative drugs for him to take. The Wang Xiaosaner that Yifeng mentioned was Wang Changsho. However, Xinlan shook her head with a strange look on her face. Brother Fengzi, if Wang Xiaosaner proposed marriage, my father wouldn't be so angry. Third aunt is here today, to propose marriage to Wang Lao's Hun. What? Wang Lao's Hun? That's nonsense. Uncle Jen, who was listening by the bed, almost gasped for breath. Who is Wang Lao's Hun? He is Wang Wanwan's biological father. This year he's already 84, and he actually asked his third aunt to propose marriage to Xinlan, who was still too young to be his granddaughter. Isn't this nonsense? What a sin, what a sin. Zhao Laoweier finally spoke after Kuei helped him up and leaned against the bedside to drink some water. Wang Lao's Hun is 84 years old this year. He is not in good health. I don't know where the Wang family hired a husband. I went to the house and took a look. I must say that the old man is in trouble. I was rash and thought about this. Canner, you have to be happy, but as a result, that bastard Wang Baiwan is targeting our Xinlan. After hearing this, Uncle Lao Zhen sighed softly and looked at each other with Yifeng, both seeing a bit of anger and helplessness in the other's eyes. Zhao Laowen contracted tuberculosis 3 years ago. In order to treat his illness, he borrowed 40,000 yuan from Wang Wanwan. However, his family was not making a living, so he never repaid the loan. With the interest, it has now become 50,000 yuan. The Wang family came to them and made it very clear, either give them money or give them money. Uncle Lao Zhen, third aunt, said that if I refuse to marry, they will go to court and say that if we don't pay back the money we owe, my father will be imprisoned for more than 10 years. Xinlan said, and burst into tears. Too much bullying. Yifeng turned around and punched the wall next to him. However, as he turned around, Yifeng was stunned. He saw a few long yams thrown on the ground next to him emitting a very faint light. Girl, don't cry, this matter is all on me. A smile appeared on Yifeng's cheek.